welcome to Star Wars Spelt Out. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and today we're back from holiday. Had a nice little break up in the north of the country, avoided the lockdown and the COVID, and then just came back and basically got asked to be on a really, not going to say prestigious, but high-profile Star Wars YouTube channel. Our buddies over at Star Wars Explained said, hey, do you want to come over and review the Bad Batch this week? And I'm assuming it's all still going ahead this weekend. I went, really should get an episode of the podcast out before that happens. Who's the chump that I can call on who can help me out in a bind on that? And I remembered, I've got to do Peppa with Matt. So I said, hey, Matt, can you do me a solid and talk some Star Wars for a little bit? So I've got an episode this week, so it doesn't look like I haven't put anything out when I get 3 extra listeners from being on Alex and Molly's channel. But Matt Frost, how you going, mate?
Good, mate. Here's the sound at the bottom of the barrel being scraped.
You brought props. Working with Michael Winslow over here.
No, it's just I know Karina keeps a lump of wood there for reasons that are not known to me. So I just grabbed it.
Recognized podcaster and Foley artist Matt Frost is
oh dear.
Has joined us on the podcast today. So thanks for doing me a solid, mate. I have to tell a little story. Just shout out to our friends Andy Campbell and Steph Young, who got married this weekend. And I was lucky enough to be invited to the wedding. It was a small wedding, and I was lucky to be sort of one of the people in there. And Andy actually asked me to be one of his groomsmen, which was amazing honor to do that. And I won't sort of go into the details of the wedding. It's not really my place to do that. I'm sure Andy and Steph will talk about that. But one of the things that sort of happened in the ceremony that was quite funny was that the celebrant was sort of, talking. They're sort of talking about the people that are like up there, and this is who they are. And they went through and they were sort of saying a few things about all of the people in the wedding party. And I guess she must have Googled me. I don't know whether she went to Andy directly or whether she just Googled me. And I guess they knew that we were friends sort of through sort of our love of Star Wars and stuff. And they were like, oh, Josh has his own Star Wars podcast. This is during the wedding. And he's had guests such as Eric Struthers, Johnny Grasso, and Darren Hayes from Savage Garden. And everybody went, ooh, like with Savage, nobody, it was no flashes of recognition for Johnny Grasso or Eric Struthers. But, obviously Darren is, quite famous and well known in Australia. But I just thought that was so funny that rather than just say the one famous person who's been on the show.
Yeah, international pop star Grammy. Like, did they win a Grammy? Millions selling
I'm
artists.
sure they have.
Yeah.
But people, if you say Savage Garden in Australia, people know who that is. It was just very funny that I don't know whether she's like, well, I better round out some other names here, just so it doesn't sound like there's a bunch of nobodies.
Child actor Johnny Grasso,
guitar virtuoso. Maybe the if you Google all the guests, they come up closest. Struthers has had some records out and been in some bands, and Johnny's probably got an IMDb page. So, so I just thought that was quite hilarious. Really, I've got to ask Andy. I didn't ask him. Obviously, he had enough going on. Just going, did you were they the names that got plucked out of the hat when it made it sound like that my stupid Star Wars podcast had any kind of relevance whatsoever to society?
I wonder if I would have been fourth if she'd had to find 4.
No mention of Peppa Pig on there, which is actually a much more successful podcast. But anyway.
Oh, no recognition.
Yeah. I know. So that was quite funny. I mean, it was a lovely day. I just wanted to bring that up front because it just sort of popped into my head just before. And I was like, that was very interesting. Whether somebody will leave the wedding and go, if I find out more about this Johnny Grasso character, he must be important.
Hey, he is.
He's important to us. So I'll be curious to see what they think of that when word travels back to them. How you going, mate?
I'm good. I've had a good laugh now, so
warmed up. That's always good. Now, I did sort of hit you up because Alex and Molly had asked me to be on Star Wars Explained this weekend for their live Bad Batch reaction show, and I was like, "Yep, happy to do it." And I've been on holiday, as I said, up in North Queensland, hadn't produced a show, and I was going to have my brother-in-law James on it, who's been on a few times, and I actually even took my recorder up there because we'll sit by the pool and knock an episode out, and that'll be easy peasy. It'll be the easiest episode I've ever done, but it just didn't happen. Really, we're too sort of busy being on holiday, really, rather than collaring someone, making them sit down and talk Star Wars.
Yeah, have I got this right? Is James the EU historian, librarian type?
Yeah, he's got all the books. Yeah, so it's always he'd moved out of home, but his bedroom was the same as when he moved out. So his little library's all still there.
Yeah. That's really cool. He's good. He's always good when he's
well, that's the thing. I was like, oh, this will be easy. This will be good, And then it just didn't it didn't transpire actually. And I was like, I sort of blew that. Like I probably could have prodded a little bit harder, but when you're on holiday,
you got your feet up, you're having a stubby. You don't really want to talk Star Wars, do you? So.
Yeah, that's true. It was quite nice. Although I had heard, I'd seen online somewhere that apparently Ron Howard was on holiday in Queensland, and I've gone, wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility he might be at Port Douglas. Ron Howard was going on holiday, and I was just thinking, I wonder if I just sat down at a restaurant or a pub and Ron Howard was in the table behind me. Like, do you go up to Ron Howard? Like, he seems like a very approachable man.
Just ply him with sun cream. He'd probably be.
You got to get him when he's most vulnerable. You got to hope he gets caught in the sun. You're like, hey Ron, like you want this hat? Or you want this sunscreen? You got to do a tight 30 minutes of my Star Wars podcast. You can do it on my phone, and you got to take a photo of it to prove that I'm not lying. But you can stand under the shade of this umbrella for as long as you're willing to talk on this podcast.
Sorry, Ron.
Now tell me everything that you reshot in Solo, and tell me how bad the other one was. Otherwise, I'm going to let you burn.
It's serious burning here, Ron. Serious burning. You're in far north Queensland.
Yeah, let's not muck around, mate. It's 99% humidity up here. Maybe it would be a little bit too hot for Ron. He's like you said, he's very ginger and very pale, and he's bald too. So he's got the sunburn trifecta.
Yeah. You'd want to be well prepared.
Yeah. So I had I'd ordered this Luke Skywalker figure the other day, and I think we were in our little chat. There's been these things called the hyperreal. These are the hyperreal figures. So
I know because you showed it to me. Yeah,
I showed you. Yeah, so they're effectively Hasbro wanted to get into the slightly higher end toys. So they've kind of got the black series. So they're basically like 8-inch black series where they're a bit more posable and supposedly more realistic and blah, 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 blah. And for whatever reason, Maya in Australia had stocked like hundreds of them. I remember going into a Maya and there was like a pile of them, like a mile high, going, who is going to buy these? And they wanted $179 for these things.
Seems like a very niche thing.
Yeah. So, of course, they'd sat on the shelf for ages and ages and hadn't sold. And I'm like, there's no way I'm paying $179 for this. And then eventually they got discounted down to $99. I'm like, I'm not going to pay $99 for this. And then they did some sort of sale recently where they're doing 30% off. So it was about $60. And I kind of went, I would like one of those. I'll pay $60 delivered. I can handle that. And so I ordered it, and my package came yesterday, and I took it out of the box. I was like, oh yeah, this doesn't look too bad. Open up the box, no lightsaber. Luke's got no lightsaber.
Has he still got both of his hands?
Yeah, he's got like 10 hands. So you get like 2 heads.
I don't know how hyper real that is, mate. If he's got 10 hands,
not hyper real at all. Yeah, well, they're not all stuck to him at once.
Hyper bullshit to me.
Yeah, it was. So so of course I'm like looking in the first thing I have to do, like I'm going, oh, that's weird. Like maybe it's because I look at it, I don't know where it's supposed to be because it's got like the little blade is there. I'm like, where's the hilt? It's not. I'm like, okay, maybe it's attached to his belt. No, it's not there. I'm like looking like around and I can't see it. And then of course you Google it to find out where it's actually supposed to be, and it's supposed to be in his hand. In the packet. Have another look.
Well, do they just have one lightsaber? Or is there like a lightsaber that's ignited, one that's half ignited, one that's fully ignited? Like,
It's just like got a little, like, it's just like the hilt, and then you get like the blade as like a bit you can click in or click out as you like, kind of thing. So the
right.
blade was there,
Right.
but the hilt wasn't there. So I'm like sort of looking around, like I'm rattling it, going like maybe it's fallen out and it's like rattling around in there. And because I didn't want to open it, because I'm going, well, I don't want to open it because if I open it, I might not be able to take it back, because they're just like, well, you just lost it, and like, too bad, you got no lightsaber. So I had.
But then if you take it back without the, they're going to open it to see. Oh, well, it's probably just in here. Rip. Like,
Yeah, well, that's too bad. Like, go
no,
for it.
You
then.
ripped my toy box.
Yeah. So, but the problem is that now I have to call up Maya. And I have to tell them that I've ordered a Luke Skywalker with no lightsaber on it. So
as a grown man.
As a grown man. So I'm basically on the phone. Like, I'm on home for about half an hour. And, there's like this sort of nice young man answers the phone. And And I started just, like, I didn't lie and say that I've bought this for my child or anything like that. I just said, look, I've got this action figure and it's shown up incomplete. Like, that was basically what they said. And like, did you order like 3 or 4 things and you've only got 2 of them? I'm like, no. Like, I've got the box of this action figure. It hasn't quite got all the accessories. And he's like, okay.
Had you taken that really disaffected tone, like you had no personal stake in this? Oh, look, my child, they've come to me. Yeah.
No, I just, and then of course the guy says, well, what's the order number? Give him the order number. He's like, okay, so you've ordered the hyper real Luke Skywalker, action figure toy. And he says, what seems to be missing? I'm like, his lightsaber's not there. I was like, he'd probably need that, wouldn't he? I'm like, yeah, it's supposed to be supposed to be in his hand and it's not there. And like, I've got a photo of the box, and I just, that whole thing of like, I can't. I've
done extensive Google research about where it's supposed to be in the box, and it's not there in the box.
Like, I've taken a photo of it. I haven't opened it and taken the hilt out, so you'll give me my money back and I get it for free and everything like that. And so essentially, he gets off the phone and comes back and says, oh yeah, look, he just goes, oh, we've got lots of those. You can just send it. We'll just send you a thing to send it back for free. We'll give you another one. So, I mean, good result that I'll get another one. But I still had to sort of eat shit on the phone, unfortunately.
I would have quite liked to have sat in on that call.
It wasn't like I'm just returning a jumper or something. You know what I mean? Like, I had to be very specific about the... And, as painful as it was, I think that was still better than having to... Like,
my dolly doesn't have its hat.
Yeah, my dolly doesn't have its laser sword. At least I didn't... Like, I kind of... Like, at the time, I'm like, well, Maya... There's a Maya, like, 10-minute drive from... I live not that far from Chadstone Shopping Centre. I could just go to Chatty and front up. And again, I'm like, well, I don't know if they've got any on the floor now. They might have all been sent back to the warehouse to be sold online. I don't want to have to explain in person about this lightsaber. Like, I'll be like, look, it hasn't got a little hand. It's listing as a little lightsaber thing. So, yeah.
You know what, mate? Since you've been so honest, I'm going to come clean here. Mm-hmm. When, like, I'm sure you remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, you got me to go pick something up for you.
Oh, the Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, Jabba the Hutt.
That's right, because Adelaide Maya was selling the Black Series Jabba the Hutt for like $30 for whatever reason. They couldn't ship them, which are now worth 200 something bucks in the box for whatever reason. They weren't shifting in Adelaide. And I just said to you, like,
rent while I kept it here.
I know, because I think you had it. It was huge, yeah. And I think I just said, hey, look, if I buy this, if you're ever in the city, can you pick it up and then one day just post it to me or whatever? And you were quite gracious enough to do that.
Oh, it was like literally across the road, like that David Jones where I picked it up is the one, the food court at the bottom of that's the one where George Lucas.
That's the famous food court.
That's right, and it's directly across the road from my wife's work, the art gallery, South Australia. So there was no excuses for me not picking it up for you.
They should have put those Jabbas in the George Lucas gift shop at the food court. Like, if they wanted to move them, like, there's probably at least a couple of Star Wars fans a week who probably go there looking for that table.
Do you know I've been in that food court dozens of times because, like, quite often, like when we do art gallery events, whatever, on the weekend, I'll go over and get something to eat with the kids over there. And I've never actually bothered to actually walk around and find where it is. I know vaguely where it is. Like,
but because the noodles and the Diet Coke or whatever.
People put the pictures, and I see because I know the different shops there, so I sort of
it's like people who live in Paris and they never go to the Louvre. They're just like, I lived here all my life, I never went. Like, you got to wait for someone. You got to wait for someone to come and visit. If I came to Adelaide and visited you, we'll go to the Veal Gardens. We'll go to Adelaide Oval for the test, and we'll go to the food court.
Anyway, when I went to David Jones to pick that up, and I said, "Oh, look, I'm here to pick up an order for my friend."
Right.
Yeah, and when they come out, they said, "Oh, is this the correct item?" And I was like, "Oh, look, I don't know. I assume it is."
It's a great big plastic Jabba the Hutt, probably.
Yeah.
He's a massive nerd, so it probably is not like me, who's cool.
I probably said something like that. Yeah, look, I don't know. Like, I know he collects a lot of toys, so maybe that's it.
Yeah, he got in a real thing with the people at Myer when Luke Skywalker didn't come with a lightsaber. Now I have to pick up his toys for him because he's banned because he kicked up a stink.
So yeah, nah. I'm pretty sure I was a massive jerk about it.
Just in case someone who knew you remotely saw you walking out of there with a Jabba the Hutt under your arm.
As somebody who got bullied quite badly at one stage for still liking Star Wars at school, there's a bit of scar tissue there, obviously. So
40-something-year-old guy is like, finally, I've got another reason to get at him.
Yeah, but anyway.
Well, I'm sad to hear that I've just dug up some traumatic memories on that. So when I asked you kind of do this, you're just like, yeah, look, I'm happy to help you out, chat as always. And you're like, yeah, but I haven't actually watched any of the Bad Batch yet.
Nah. I think I needed a bit of a break from Star Wars, to be honest. So,
have you got any sort of gist of what it's about from the general whenever it comes across your plate, or is it sort of like you've got sort of no?
Well, I've sort of I've kind of pulled back a little bit from social media too, so I'm not really keyed into that either. So no, I really don't know.
Blind.
I did watch. You know how they came out with, was it 12 Clone Wars episodes?
Oh yeah, like they brought those other ones back. Yeah, like we're finishing the series kind of thing.
I watched the first episode of the Bad Batch bit. Then I was just like, not for me.
Yeah,
and then I watched the first little bit of the next lot. I was like, not for me either. Then I watched the 4 at the end. The
Siege of Mandalorian.
Yeah. Yep. And I'm like, oh, that was pretty cool. That was good.
1 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah. Well,
don't feel sad. 1 out of 3.
That's exactly what Meatloaf was on about. So,
so
when it came back, I was just like, it's probably like, there's so much stuff to watch on telly, and we just bought a Nintendo Switch and
you got Mario Kart to play.
We've got Shudder, which is like a nothing but horror movies like streaming channel, and I'm just like,
this is where I want to put my attention.
I was watching like an ultra violent horror movie, and then I remember we were doing Peppa Pig tonight. So I'm like airplaying that in between, and then as soon as it would finish, it'd go back to my horror movie.
Oh my god!
I know, yeah. You like what you like, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I'm enjoying the Bad Batch. It's definitely better than those Clone Wars episodes. They make those guys a bit more interesting. I'm not going to give you the recap. You might watch it eventually. But are you aware that there's like a little New Zealand girl in it? That basically they've like.
No.
It's quite funny because I can just explain to you what's going on. So basically, like the Bad Batch, it all happens like just after like the Empire's taken over and all the Jedis have been killed.
Okay,
and literally happens like just after that.
Yeah.
So all the Bad Batch are like on a mission, and all of a sudden, like their clone buddies start randomly like shooting Jedis and stuff like that, and because they're like the crazy defective ones, they don't go nuts like the rest of them.
So they like the handful that had pulled their chips out.
Well, they're just because of their genetic weirdness of the chips didn't kick in. So basically, on the first episode, there's like 5 of them.
Well, that doesn't sound very feasible, Josh.
Well, space wizards, mate. So one of the guys, basically, his chip does work. So he goes like along with the rest of them, and all the others are like, "Oh no, our buddy, he's like turned into a prick now." And so anyway, they go back to like the clone facility, and it's all like we're the Empire now. We're not the war's over. Now you're about sort of being Empire troops of the Empire. And then they discovered like this little New Zealand girl who is like hanging out at the cloning facility, and they help her escape. And her name's Omega, and she's got a very, very thick New Zealand accent. It turns out that she's a clone as well, but she's like a girl version of the clone, and she sort of joins the crew. So there's just like this really thick New Zealand accent girl like in the show who's quite like very endearing, but it's kind of funny because it's sort of, as an Australian, like the way people talk about it from other countries about Omega, like, oh my God, like she's so great, she's so sincere, but she's just got that such a like Korg from Thor kind of thing going on, like, hey, how you going? Like that, or Breton. It's like you've got Breton, you're hanging around with Breton Jermaine. Right? Like it's that
like a baby Lucy Lawless or something.
Yeah, it's just that New Zealand sincerity in her voice. You know what I mean? Like it's that real sort of like, yeah. So it's quite funny, but yeah,
But she's cool, is she?
Like, she's cool. Yeah, she's sort of with the crew, and it does sort of make the dynamic a bit more interesting. And they sort of like, how do we deal with having like a younger person around? And she's sort of, she's never been outside and seen the real world before. And
it's kind of like, so it's like the A-Team meets 3 men and a baby, or
yeah, maybe a little bit like that. Maybe not. I mean, she's not a baby, but yeah. It's a little bit like that. It's just like, well, guys have only ever done one thing. All of a sudden, I've got to like take responsibility.
A-Team meets about a boy.
Yeah. They're all like Hugh Jackman shooting pool.
Has she got like superpowers or anything?
No, it's kind of hinted that she's got sort of natural abilities in certain things because she's a clone. So it sort of turns out at the end that she's like, how like Boba Fett was like the original copy of Jango Fett, but that he didn't get like. He was sort of like a pure copy. She's also that as well, so that's why she's valuable. Right. So people can't start hunting for her because she's basically like the only other sort of pure genetic code that's left, basically.
So it's like the A-Team meets Firestarter.
Yeah. The A-Team meets someone with a cute little... The A-Team meets Rudy from Cosby Show, or...
the A-Team meets Punky Brewster.
Yes. The A-Team meets New Zealand Punky Brewster, plucky orphan.
Yep. Maybe with powers like Firestarter, maybe not.
Yeah, she's not. I mean, there's some debate of whether she can use the Force and stuff as well, but that hasn't really come to the forefront. She's just kind of, she's good at helping out.
Oh, well, I'm sure it won't upset everyone if there's another Jedi in a period where there's not supposed to be any Jedis, will there?
Yeah, well, just throw it around.
Yeah. That'll go down all right.
It's essentially like the 3 years of those, main original Star Wars movies that nothing actually happens because it's everything else that just happens around it. And for that weird little vacuum of those 3 movies that essentially everybody goes missing for 3 years while the rest of the galaxy sort of like sorting itself out.
Yeah. So is Ahsoka in this one?
No, not yet. Rex has turned up. No sign of Ahsoka yet, but
right.
Dave Filoni is involved. He probably won't be able to help himself. In the last episode, they did have Hera from Rebels turn up, sort of like as she's sort of younger in this because it's sort of set, 10 years before Rebels or whatever.
Yep.
15 years. So she turns up, and that was quite cool.
So she's like a teenager, or is she?
Yeah, she's sort of like 10 or 11. So they kind of go back to her planet and like the Empire, because the war's over, and they're like, hey, we're the Empire, but we're here to help, but we're just going to need to like stay here and run things. And her parents are sort of like, quite high up or whatever in the planet stuff. And she's involved in that kind of thing, and Chopper's there. And yeah, so it's quite nice.
Right. So it's like A-Team meets Punky Brewster meets Firestarter, but like what, Pretty in Pink?
Oh yeah, potentially. There's a pull. Just let me know when we get to A-Team meets Punky Brewster meets Firestarter meets Weird Science. And then the Bad Batch try to create a girlfriend in a computer. Well, the biggest problem with all this is that there's only one girl clone. It's sort of like a Smurfette kind of situation here. We got to create a bunch of Lisas in a computer, and
so it's like A-Team meets Punky Brewster meets the Smurfs meets Firestarter meets Pretty in Pink meets Weird Science. That's right.
Yeah. That's what I'd call the episode if it wasn't going to take that long. They're taking so long to type out. I'm just,
How about Matt is a jerk?
Matt is trolling. But no, look, it's been fun. It's been cool. It's certainly I don't even want to say the lower end of Star Wars. That's not fair to say, but compared to the quality of the television stuff that's come out, and then especially at the same time, something like Loki's out at the moment. I'm really enjoying Loki. I'm going, all right, well, that's sort of higher end television. This is sort of what I put on before the footy on the Friday night.
Right. Gotcha.
Knock the episode out, and then I'll watch Araj and Les from Sith List do their little reactions, and then I don't really think about it much after that. But
yeah, but it's obviously it's a it's not sort of like just a. It's not like the A-Team. It's like an overarching story sort of thing that keeps you going from week to week. Obviously,
yeah, there is sort of there is an ongoing sort of the sort of interesting thing about it is that it's sort of all right, it's dealing with how does the Republic become the Empire. It's basically that point where it's all right, now we're the Empire. We're going to run things a bit differently now. We're going to start cracking down on people. We're going to start cracking heads a little bit. We're going, it's actually quite interesting how quickly that sort of turns.
No more free healthcare.
Yeah, no more free healthcare. They start wanting to track everybody and basically throwing their weight around. Nice place you have here. Shame if something happened to it, kind of thing.
Start kicking people's indicators in.
Yeah, smashing tail lights
out.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. Have now.
Have now. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Have you seen that Monty Python sketch? I think it was in the Flying Circus where the mob show up at the army barracks. And they're trying to intimidate the army general, and they're just oh, nice army base you got here. Be a shame if something happened to all those tanks out there. Oh, nice nuclear jet you've got there, Governor. Be a real shame if something.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting. I find it interesting because it's just we haven't really seen that. So as far as the concept goes, that's quite cool, and it's cool. I'm enjoying it. But I'm just trying to think. I had to Google when you were on last, and I think it was. I don't think season 2 of The Mandalorian had started yet. And I remember when I was on the 3 Men and a Baby Yoda podcast, and Matt on there had brought up his favorite episode was the last one that you'd been on. And he was sort of going, oh, Matt, he doesn't like The Mandalorian and da-da-da. And I said, look, I think deep down he enjoys it, but he likes to temper people's expectations. He likes to play against the hype train a little bit.
I think that's probably fair. I did enjoy the second season a fair bit more than the first.
Did you? I haven't even asked you. I mean, we talk quite often and stuff, but did you? When Luke Skywalker turned up, did that stir something in the young man inside you? Or did you sort of see it coming a mile away?
I did see it coming a mile away, but I think I think that last episode was one of my least favourites actually of the second season. Just seemed a bit, I don't know,
leading towards that one moment kind of thing.
Yeah, and there was something about when he was fighting the. I think early on when he went to, did he have to go find the other Mandalorians to help him or something like that? And they started fighting or something in a bar or.
Yeah, that was at the
start.
I
can't remember.
think, yeah.
I just and the dialogue was pretty rank, and I was just going, "Oh, this is your finale." I thought you would have and then when he was fighting the death droids or whatever like that, I thought that was a bit lame. And but I thought the bit at the end, the general bits at the end with Moff, what's his name, and Moff Gilligan, yeah, and
Gilligan, Moff
and
Gilligan and Moff Skipper.
Moff's, yeah, and I think that fight and the end bit and the bit with Luke or whatever was all pretty good. Yeah.
Do you remember? Did you have a favorite episode? Is there one that sort of went, that one where they had the big Tremors monster? I kind of thought, I might like that. He likes big monsters. You're being a bit of a Jaws man.
Yeah, but it was so derivative and stuff like that. I didn't really think it was that good.
What about the spider one? The spiders?
I thought the spider one was really cool. I thought that was a good episode. And I liked I think I liked the one. What's the one where they got the comedian and then he had to take his helmet off and.
Oh, the one with Bill Burr and their Yep.
Yeah, I thought that one was pretty good. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Actually,
and it was sort of like the Empire. Like sort of almost like cheering for the Empire because they're sort of like fighting the bandits or whatever. And
and I thought that was pretty good. I actually was sort of I kind of dug what's her face. The actress everyone doesn't like now.
You're going to have to be a little bit more specific. Well,
she was the Cara Dune.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she had some pretty. Unfortunately,
the actress that people don't like anymore. Is that what they put on their action figure now?
Oh yeah.
That's it.
I know we had that. We had that brilliant running joke when we were talking about how much they were like things were worth based on her action figure. But I've completely forgotten the actress's name, which is awful. And I'm sorry about that. But
Gina Carano. Yeah, that's
Gina Carano. Yeah. But you know. Aside from all that was going on, I thought she was actually doing a pretty good job in the show, which is it's a bit of a pity because I think she got sacked.
Keep your opinions to yourself, and you probably still have a job. You probably have your own TV series right now.
Yeah. Is that what that was?
Well, I mean, they sort of announced this Rangers: The New Republic thing, and it sort of seemed like that's what it was going to be. Like she was going to get her own spin-off, really. So, I mean, on one hand, it's like, well. She kind of shot herself in the foot. But I suppose at the same time, she could have got 5 episodes into that thing and it all blown up. But then they're snookered because they've got, at least they haven't made it yet. But
it was called Rangers of the New Republic, not Ranger.
So. Not like Walker, Texas Ranger kind of thing.
Yeah, because if Chuck Norris suddenly started, whatever, I can't even remember what she did now. This is bad. Sorry,
but it's just showing the news cycle. It feels like that wasn't that long ago, and you just couldn't get away from it. And now it's like, she says something stupid, and wasn't brought back, and life goes on.
I'm starting to remember it now. She was being a bit of a jerk. That's right. And she's sort of dubbed, didn't she? She just doubled down and
she doubled down and doubled down and kind of so oh well, I got money for her action figure, so that wasn't too bad. So thanks for that. But even then I saw, because the reason I like, they said they were discontinuing and they weren't going to make any more of her stuff, but I saw something recently that was reasonably new that she was in. Maybe it was some sort of thing that had already been kind of sent off to the manufacturers or whatever. But
I saw her the other day. She was in this little this Mandalorian set. Like, I'm using my hands, but I'm suggesting a box around about 1 foot wide by about half a foot tall with lots of little figures in them. They wouldn't have been more than maybe 1.5 inches high. Yeah, and she was in there, and that was literally only like a week ago.
You bought 10 of them, and now they're just
they're actually already discounted, so they obviously they have to be individual. Like there were other things in there, so it just wasn't her.
Right.
So it maybe to get those big Dune dollars, you've got to there's got to be just her on her own.
So Dune dollars. I don't even know if that figure's still even worth anything. I feel like it had its little moment, and then that was it was about it really. But good luck to her, I suppose. I haven't gone and watched the. I have planned to because they put the Ewok movies back on Disney Plus. I have sort of planned to
Oh,
go back
okay.
and go and watch them. But I actually was going to do a commentary track with Catherine and another mate of mine, Heath, who I've had on before, because they were sort of when we were in Melbourne lockdown. I sort of thought, those guys. I think both those guys live alone. I was like, it'd be nice. Get them on. We'll do a commentary track and chit chat and something to do to break the lockdown monotony.
Yeah.
It didn't quite happen, but I'm still keen to do it. But I've got to go back and rewatch the. You haven't been tempted to chuck the Ewok movie in front of the kids?
No, look, I honestly like knowing my own kids. I think
they'd get 5 minutes in and just be like, "This sucks."
they'd be bored. Yeah, they would be bored.
Can we put?
To be honest, I remember being a little bit bored in it. To be honest, I saw it. I didn't see it in the cinema. It didn't come to Narracor. No surprises there. But I remember
the print didn't quite make it.
Yeah, but I remember seeing it at a friend's, my mum's friend's place. She must have been over there to for a coffee and a chat or whatever, and I was allowed to rent it on video and watch it on video around at their place. Well, and I do remember being a little bit sort of just, oh yeah, when are you going to get some lasers going? Like, yeah.
A lot of Ewoks in this thing. I'm a bit of an Ewok defender. I quite like the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. I got no problem with them. But the funny thing is, it's within the framing of that film. That's the whole thing. I'm just watching 90 minutes of this.
That's it. Look, I'm a big Ewok fan. My Ewok action figures were some of my most cherished. I love them in the film. But it's, like I love ice cream too. But just eating a 4-liter tub of it all to yourself, and nothing else, no cone, just ice cream.
Using your hands.
Just using your hands, and it's it's a bit much, I think.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like they've put the droids cartoon and the Ewok cartoons and stuff on Disney Plus yet, and I'm just kind of going, like you said, there's just so much other stuff to watch. Really, I don't think I get so much, time to actually put stuff on at the moment. And at the moment, it's just like, all right, well, that Loki's taking out one evening, and I've got AFL 360 to watch, and then that's about it, really. Although we just sort of we just finished Line of Duty at our house. I don't know if you've seen that, which is on Netflix, but that's sort of like British cop show, which is amazing.
You did tell me about it. Yeah.
But, we've only got, we've kind of got to find something that both of us want to watch.
Yeah. Karina's watching a show with Michael Douglas and Alan Arkin in it, which is awesome.
Oh.
And I'm sort of just being sucked in along to that. But I'm still one episode behind Loki. I got into one episode and I was just like, I was in a bit of a bad mood and I just couldn't. I'm just like, I can't just suffer this shit at the moment, and then, and it wasn't, and it wasn't. I knew I was being unreasonable, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm not like this stuff's probably not bad, but I'm just not feeling it. And
I fell asleep in the last episode last week for whatever reason. I think we'd been up. I think it was related to the Euros because the Euro soccer's been up, so I'd been getting up early and watching. It might have been one of the England semi-final or something had been on that day, and I got up and watched that. So by the time I got around to watching Loki in the evening, I got to the last 10 minutes and sort of, you start nodding the head, and then by the time I nodded up, I'd go, oh, the credits are on. I'm like, oh, crap, I have to. And then I kind of made myself, got organized and went to bed and then just watched the last 10 minutes before I went. Look, this is going to get spoilt for me, basically. I've got to do it now. This is my window, my non-spoiler window.
I think, like with like these sort of superhero and Star Wars and stuff like that, these like pop culture juggernaut sort of stuff. Like I've got to know myself a little bit better. Like Rise of Skywalker, like I lost my fairy dust. Like it was and rightly so. Like you can only. And I'm not saying it's a bad film or whatever, but it just did not work for me at all. Like, and once you look down, like you just, it's hard to get yourself back to that spot again. Like,
is it harder to recharge the battery now because, like, there's no like let up.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not missing. It's not like you've got a chance to miss anything, because it's just like, oh, well, hey, you didn't like that movie, but don't worry, like Mandalorian will be out next week, and then we've got this, and then we got this, and you're just like, oh, well, maybe I need to like fully, before, like, I have to wait 5 years for a movie, or 2 or 3 years, where I can stop and not think about it. And then, the anticipation, and then you get like a trailer, an image, and a title, and,
Yep.
cast, and this, and you work towards it. That was like the sort of the magical thing about The Force Awakens was, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, wow, we're starting from scratch. We know nothing. We're building up. And now it's sort of, we're not having movies for a couple of years and things, but it kind of goes, well, it doesn't really matter, because I'm going to scratch that itch. There's enough to sort of to keep the glass topped up. But if you're just topping up the glass, are you really quenching the thirst? Does that make sense? Have I landed that metaphor?
I think so. And to sort of go back to what I was saying about sort of, looking down and just sort of losing your... I watch, like, because I'm not a huge MCU person. I think I'm up to date now. I think I've watched them all. But I'm particularly never been really a big fan of the Avengers ones. They don't really... But when they don't work for me so much. But when they started doing the television shows, I was just like, oh, this could be something different. And I watched WandaVision, and I really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed it. And then I was watching the Captain America one, and like I decided to watch an episode with it being in a bit of a bad mood. And
this also is very mood dependent.
Well, it is because you lose your fairy dust if you're not gonna sit down and go, I'm going to switch my brain off and have a good time here.
Yep.
Like, you have to sort of get into the mood to do it.
But you don't.
And
if
if
you
you can't do it,
same, like you said, if you don't have the fairy dust, you put the same expectations on anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if I was like, hey, Line of Duty is awesome, you should go watch it. And you're like, well, I don't know anything about it. And you watch the first one and you're not in a great mood. You're like, well, I guess it was all right, but whatevs. And the same thing, you're just
I'd be like, Josh is a jerk. This sucks.
Yeah, that was just like, sucked you in. Made you watch all these shows about bent policemen for no reason. Yeah, so that's that thing where it's just like, well, just because there's either so much of it or you're not missing it, you're just treating it like any other piece of content. So it's just like, unless it's going to absolutely blow my socks off. In the case of the MCU stuff, like, they're kind of like, WandaVision's wildly different to what Falcon and Winter Soldier is, and I think Loki's pretty different as well. So, I mean, it's cool in a way that you can do that in a television you probably couldn't do in a movie. Like, I watched Black Widow the other night, which I enjoyed, but it felt very much just like, oh, this is just like this is a very up and down Marvel movie. You know what I mean? Like, it was very like, I'm watching like Winter Soldier 2, or like, it's just that tone. It wasn't kind of like, oh, there's the sort of the weirdness, and you don't really get the stuff that you got in WandaVision and probably Loki, more like, oh, you hit those sort of little cliffhangery moments and stuff and leave you pondering weird things, because you're just like, you're kind of just plowing through a movie. So it's kind of weird looking at these stories being told this way and then this way. So it'll be interesting that, like, when we get this new Star Wars movie in whatever it is, 2020
something
3 or 24 or whatever it is, and it's like the Patty Jenkins Rogue One movie. So it's like, okay, well, it's going to be a space battle movie. Cool. I like space battles and stuff, but is my expectation of how I consume my Star Wars content gonna, like, is it gonna work in a movie in this case? Especially if it's just like a standalone. It's kind of like, well, all I'm watching is a shorter version with less depth of a Star Wars thing that I've already seen before.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you get stuff like Cassian or Obi-Wan, you're like, I got these long form things that the production value is just as good. I'm actually paying more for less. I don't know. I mean, the Taika Waititi one is like, I give Taika Waititi a pass just because he always makes really weird movies. So I'm kind of like, just give me something weird. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, I'd almost prefer the Taika Waititi Star Wars show, because I just get more of it, and it could be weirder.
I think like the big thing for me is just like learning to like take a bit of responsibility for my own enjoyment. Like, well, honestly, like when I watched this Captain America one, and I was like, this sucks. Like, I think it was episode 3, but it doesn't matter. Please, nobody look up which one it was, episode 3, and say, why the fuck did you not
why
like
were you
that?
wrong? Hey, idiot.
Yeah. But then I watched the next episode and I liked it again because I was in a better mood. And I went back and actually watched that episode 3 again. And I understand what I was getting annoyed about, but it wasn't worth getting annoyed about. And I should have just switched it off. So, like, you know,
I gotta calm myself and cheer myself up. I need to put some dismembering horror movies on here. And,
you just got to.
I gotta see some heads lopped off and some.
Exactly, like, you know, because that probably would have been more appropriate for the mood I was in, and so, but so the other day when I was watching Loki and I was just going, not feeling this, I just paused it because I can come back and then, you know, a week and a half later, I went back and watched it and I was fine. Like,
yeah.
So
do you have like a do you, like, you don't have to answer this question if you don't want, because if you give out your late night routine, but do you like watch anything or read anything particularly out of habit every night before you go to bed, or is it just sort of like
no, I don't.
Whatever's going.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a big reader in bed, but, you know, which would be whatever book I was reading. But I have trouble now with my glasses and stuff like that.
So I've got to this point where I watch like a YouTube videos before I go to bed. Like, they're usually like cooking shows. Like they'll be like Binging with Babish or some Jamie Oliver thing where he's cooking something like 7 minutes. And that's something I'll watch before I go to bed.
I like that Babish one.
Yeah, but then I find myself that, where was I? I was away somewhere and I didn't do it. And I couldn't, couldn't sleep for like an hour and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get to sleep. And then I remembered that I didn't watch like a cooking video before I went to bed. So I like just pulled my iPad out and like put my headphones in, watched the cooking video, and then turned the thing off and went to bed. Like, it's really weird. Like, I've just sort of programmed myself.
Yeah,
I should be. I mean, I'm not watching angry YouTubers in cars yelling about, you know, girls in He-Man or something. But
no, I couldn't handle that. But yeah, I actually watched a lot more YouTube now. But it's like, you know, I found a couple of reviewers that I really like that I just like, you know, and quite often they're reviewing something that I'm watching because, you know, I've got my other interests other than like Star Wars. And
is that you just finding guitars for me to spend money on, basically?
There is that. But, you know, like, you know, I do really like my horror and my Stephen King and stuff like that. So, you know, there's been series that have come out and I've wanted to know what other people, somebody that I respect, I would like to know what they think. You know, it doesn't have to. They don't have to think like me, but it's just I like other people's opinions. You know, like,
yeah.
And I think that's a big thing about like taking responsibility for your own enjoyment. If you don't enjoy something, it doesn't mean you have to you don't actually have to tell everybody.
So, for sure. Like, and like I've had a couple of people on just talking, like reading back onto Bad Batch, and just sort of said, I think when I had Tracy on, I don't think she'd actually seen it yet, and I think when I had Jess Schrader on, you know, she's sort of like, yeah, it's fine. And I said, well, are you just watching it because it's Star Wars and you feel like you have an obligation to watch it? And she's just sort of like, yeah, I kind of have this sort of weird obligation to my fandom that I have to watch it because it's Star Wars. And whether it's a matter of obligation to my friends who are fans because I want to be sort of up to date, or whether it's an obligation to the machine or whatever it is. But, you know, she's like, I'm enjoying it enough that I'm not like suffering through it, but at the same time, it's not like I'm rushing home for like appointment television or whatever.
I'd hate, like, you know, that, like my particular personality type, I'd hate feeling like that I was, that's why it doesn't bother me at all that I'm not watching it. Yeah, and it doesn't bother me at all that I've stopped buying this band's album or that band's album, or you know, I haven't watched every you know Final Destination movie or whatever like that. You know, like, you know, that's a horror franchise, by the way, Josh. I know you've got a confused look on your face.
I saw the original Final Destination in the cinema, actually.
Yeah.
Hang on, is that the one where they like get on the plane?
Yep.
And then they get off the plane.
Yep.
And then the plane crashes. Yes. I saw that. I saw that at the cinema, the first one. But yeah, like it's stuff that I've like loved. Like, you know, like I'm a huge Simpsons fan. I love the Simpsons, but I haven't watched the new Simpsons for like 15 years. Yeah. You know what I mean? But it doesn't mean I don't love the original ones any less. But at the same time, like that's the whole thing where I've got a whole bunch of those. Sometimes things just go on too long, and it's just like I I can't.
Yeah, and some bands do too. Like um, the Rolling Stones still make new music. I don't know if anyone listens to it or buys it. Like it's just, but it's not the point. It's up to them if they want to do it or not. It's up to them if they want to keep making Simpsons or
Yeah, and that's right.
yeah.
You've always got the back catalogue to go back on as well. So, so I don't know. Like maybe one day there will be. Like at the moment, there's enough content. There's enough gap between it. In the case of Star Wars, where it's just like I've got time to watch it and I'm interested and I'm enjoying it. And at least at this point, I'm not kind of going, oh, I think I'll just give that one a pass. I don't know. It'll all depend on how we end up. If it turns out we're living in a world where there's like a new episode of a Star Wars thing like every week, and then there's a new episode of something else every week, and there's something else, and I'm going, well, I've got like 5 evenings. I've got like a couple of hours if I watch television every night and I'm not doing something else or whatever. Great. Or as my kids get bigger, they'll be up later. They might be like, well, I don't want to watch that shit. Like, I want to watch. We're going to have to start doing family entertainment. We're going to have to start watching The Voice or something because it's like we've got to find something all 4 of us can sit through. And some stuff might fall by the wayside.
And the other thing, and look, I don't actually give a shit if anyone agrees with me or not, but a world where you get an 8-episode Marvel series, a little break, then an 8-episode Star Wars series, a little break, an 8-episode Marvel series. You know what I mean? Like, which is probably something that, in a way, they might be even aiming for. I don't know, but that to me is not like any cause for celebration. Like it's actually the opposite. Like, I don't want all my entertainment just to be this franchise based stuff, like there's got to be some room for some new something new. Like
well, we live in this multi-platform world now where it's like, well, they're going, well, we're just doing it over here and we're feeding that audience, whereas there's these other platforms. I guess you can do this over here, but yeah, it's just the whole viewing. As we were at the same age, we grew up at the time it was like, hey, the movie's on Sunday night on Channel 10, and that's what you're watching, and that's what you get. And now it's this sort of like multi-channel thing. But look, I don't know. Maybe we sound like we've just been spoiled. We've eaten too much ice cream, and we're just sort of sitting, rubbing our bellies, going, "Oh, that's a lot of ice cream." And now I've got to talk about the ice cream. And
yeah, well, it's a balanced diet, and bad metaphor, but I just don't think non-stop Marvel and Star Wars is actually a balanced diet at all. Like, there's lots of really interesting movies from past, present, and future, and television shows, and you don't want them to take up all the bandwidth, like literally.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, I don't want to be in a world where it just becomes a chore to have to watch it. You know what I mean? Like I said, that sense of obligation. And like in the case of Mike, and I think I had said this before, it's just like I'm pretty tolerant of most stuff. I'll just be like, yeah, that's cool. It was good. And I think in the case of all this stuff, it's all for the most part well made. It's interesting. So it's not like something is so bad.
Apart from the Mandalorian.
Like, I just gotta wait. Stick the boot in there at the end. Well, you got there'll be no Mandalorian season this year. I think it's the Boba Fett show. So you can pivot to that, but that's not till December. So you've got some time, mate.
Yeah.
Just rounding it all up before we kick it home.
I can look at some real sunsets in the meantime. So
yeah, you can go outside. It'll be summer then. You get some nice sunsets down in Adelaide. You can enjoy that. But yeah, look, there's a good chance that Boba Fett show is going to be on Tatooine, so it's going to be sunsets all day.
So, yeah, nothing but sunsets.
Nothing but sunset. Thanks so much for doing this, mate. I appreciate it. It's getting late here. We've already backed up. We already did a Peppa session already here, and I was like, look at that. It won't take that long, and I've just, we got a little bit of silliness there at the start as we did, and then we just talked in our old man way.
I've yelled at clouds ever since. So
yelled at clouds ever since. But that's just the way it is. It's but I'll keep you abreast of what's happening in the A Team meets Punky Brewster meets
Firestarter.
meets 16 Candles. No, Pretty in Pink meets Weird Science.
Yeah, I'm starting to talk myself into watching this show. Sounds pretty good.
Well, the first episode is like 90 minutes too, which I know would annoy you. Just like, this won't end. This is just going on. But if you get some spare time, you watch it. And you want to come back, you're welcome to come back and chat. But tell everybody where they can find you.
Oh, you don't want to find me.
Well, just listen to the Peppa Pig podcast.
Then. Yeah. Listen.
Find Matt talking about his real passion.
Yeah. It's getting good at the moment. We're in some really good territory over there.
Yeah, we're in the like Empire Strikes Back phase of Peppa Pig at the moment over there.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't reached those filthy sequels yet.
First two are good.
I'm joking.
Don't send letters to Matt. Don't send them to me. Yeah, well, you can find Matt at the Peppa Pig podcast. You're online. You're lurking online every now and then.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm sort of mainly on there following guinea pig accounts.
The important stuff.
I'm really emotionally invested in other people's guinea pigs.
Awesome. Well, get your guinea pig news. You can follow us at StarWarsSpelledOut.com. If you're listening to this when it comes out, I think I'm on Star Wars Explained this weekend, unless the dates change, and then just too bad. Keep an eye on the socials if it changes. And that's about it. So, yeah, I was always going to close out like we close out Peppa. I was going to just, say thank you, Matt.
Thank you, Josh, and good night, my little nerdlings.